Good evening, everybody. Hope you're having a relaxing Wednesday evening. It's a little bit later than usual, and I appreciate your patience in getting this broadcast slash video out to you. I also appreciate your patience in getting the grades for that informative speech out to you. Once again, I feel like I must, I think the expression is eat crow a little bit, because I had posted that FAQ on Friday, thinking that many of the questions I was receiving were going to be answered in that email, when I did not realize that I was making an error in that I inconsistently recorded which blank your score would go in. So you normally, in an on-class, if you're mildly curious about what happened, in a normal in-person class, I give the actual physical grade sheet to the student with all the comments written on it, and I have a traditional grade book where I keep the actual numbers recorded, and I can just enter them in a big spreadsheet on Blackboard, and it's very easy and convenient. But in online courses, you've got to use a different interface, and it appears that there's two different blanks for scores on an interface. One is private for instructors only, and the other one is for the actual student to see. And as you can surmise, that given my scatterbrain nature, for some people I put the grade in the correct blank, and then later when I graded things again, I must have made a different dice roll in my head and put the grade in the other blank. Why there is a button to publish grades separate from the two blanks that you can use, I'll never know. Well, actually, that's not true. I do know. People that teach online full-time appreciate having a place where they can record their thoughts and scores before where students can't see them, so that they can do a thorough job without having to carry any paper around. And I guess that's admirable, being a paperless type deal. But nonetheless, I found it kind of confusing, and I'm sure you did a little vexing as well, because I was telling you that your grades are up and you could not see them. But nonetheless, they are all fixed now after I talked with our tech support people that I'm sure they face-palmed as they walked back down the hallway. That your grade should now be available to you. Everybody should have a score, and in fact, since I sent that email out this afternoon, I haven't seen anyone send me a message to contradict that belief. So excellent. I also want to say, speaking about grading so far, is that as a group, you guys are doing excellent work. Your deliveries are very strong. I was kind of worried, I guess. Now that I know that you are all good, I guess I can tell you a little bit that in the beginning of the semester I was kind of afraid that people talking to a camera would maybe psych themselves out and sound very unsure, and how you would improve your delivery might be difficult. And we'll still talk about certain elements of delivery in the next couple of broadcasts, not next week, but likely the week after. But nonetheless, you are doing a great job. I really feel like any reasonable person who watches your videos and compares them to a presentation in the face-to-face section would not really be able to tell the difference between your quality of work and someone else's from a face-to-face section that meets a couple times a week. So again, I feel that that's a great testament to your ability as students to keep on top of the work, to tackle this with an attention to detail and enthusiasm that I really appreciate and admire, I suppose. I'm not sure if I could do so well in an online course like this, simply because I'm one of those people that always had to ask the professor questions, and having the person, not immediately available like that would be a hindrance to me, and I really appreciate / admire you all for sticking in there and tackling this with the effort that you do. So it's very apparent in your videos and your high quality work, and I feel like as a group we will have no trouble meeting the learning objectives, and that most of us, if not all of us, are going to skip out of here with a very high grade and ready to tackle any of the challenges that a more professional environment will have for us. Many of the skills that you're learning with recording videos and reading notes from a screen or reading notes from slightly off camera, those things that you're practicing are going to come in handy for you, definitely. We do it all the time in my line of work, and I'm not saying that just as a professor of communication, but teachers, we teach now online is going to be a big deal. I never taught online before, and look, here I am now teaching online to you, and creating a course in which I try new skills and my students are trying new skills at the same time has been such a joy for me, and I really appreciate you as a group. And I guess I'll stop gushing. You guys are doing great. Let's go ahead and talk about how to keep your semester going well by this turning in this next assignment here. The second to last graded assignment of the semester will be the outline/speech recording. Again, remember you're turning them in separately, but they're really the same thing because they're on the same rubric. Your upcoming speech here. So Persuasive Speech 1. Your outlines, which is your assignment for this week. Okay, your written assignment for this week is to do these outlines. They will be due next Monday, this coming Monday actually, April 17th by 11:59 p.m. And your recorded speeches will be due Friday, April 21st, which again is not this Friday, but the next one. So you've got a week. You've got about 10 days to pull together your speech finally. And unfortunately, maybe just 5 days to get your outlines ready. But again, I feel confident that you can do it because we're fairly long in the process. If that deadline is troublesome to any of you, then please let me know and I can grant you an extension. I know that this is kind of an unusual pattern. We usually go Wednesday to Wednesday, but we do need to kind of pick up the pace just a little bit. Also happening on Monday is we're going to have a special broadcast. It'll likely just be me, but Liz has graciously decided to do a example video of a decent B+-ish range persuasive speech. I asked her to commit several errors that are kind of typical of a persuasive speech of this nature, so that I can talk about them and go again. A lot of you had commented either in emails or in chat that one night, that night we did the informative speech example. You found that fairly helpful. So we're going to do that again. Unfortunately, I don't have an example lying around for this particular speech, as this is the first semester we've actually done a persuasive speech 1. Usually there's just one persuasive speech and it is the final speech, but this semester we're doing 2. So anyway, Liz has graciously volunteered to record that speech. Liz is my teaching assistant, so we'll have that to look at on Monday evening. Again, I'm not going to necessarily commit to a specific time on that. Monday evenings are usually busy for me, but by the time you wake up on Tuesday, you should have a example persuasive speech with some of my commentary about how I would grade it and why, so that you can use that to prepare or record your speeches, which will be your work for that week. So again, that's what's coming down the pipeline now. So let's go ahead and talk about what's happening this week. So what's happening this week is getting your outlines together by Monday. There are some resources I thought I would give to you, or rather that I would point out are available to you in doing this outlining assignment. The first resource here is this grade sheet. I'm going to update this so that you can refer to it. Again, it is located in our course content area under Persuasive Speech 1 Basic Details, and this will be overwritten. And just for clarity, I will also probably put a revised link down here so that there's no confusion. These will be the same 2 documents, but at least there'll be no confusion about what the details are. Okay, anyway. So the basic, again, this is kind of like the very vague description of what the assignment is, and I know that it's vague, so let's go ahead and fill in some particulars of it. So the basic goal is to get the audience to believe or accept something they don't already believe, accept, or do something they do not already do. Your time limit is to be no less than 4 minutes, but when it gets around to 6 minutes, you are wrapping things up. You have one more source and one more citation compared to the last speech. Last speech was 3, now you do 4. Note cards, anything you can read from well off camera without being distracting. I didn't really take off points for this because some of you did hold your documents or your cards in front of the camera, and really I know that's the way that you kind of practice it when you are when you don't have the convenience of a podium and you're standing in front of a group. However, even many presentation spaces these days people will put their notes on like a table or even a bulletin board, or they will have a podium. Um, so that's kind of the skill I want you to practice, is kind of reading something that's not necessarily in your hand. And again, I appreciated the practice that you all did in terms of if you did, use note cards, or if you did use pieces of paper. I noticed that you had either you already knew how to do it, or you looked up some tips about how to do it because you had done it basically the way that I would have coached you to do it. So good work on that. But this time, let's make a special effort to read things from off camera. So that being said, I deleted the word "well" there because as I was ranting about it, I got the idea that you're not really. The challenge isn't that it's far away. Okay, the challenge is that it's just not in your hands. All right. So anyway, so it's just read something from off camera. Again, the presentational aid, you've already done this. You've already turned this in. It is a kind of a completionist type grade. Which again I will update when we get to the actual persuasive speech. I will look at your presentational aid and can kind of compare it to your final speech. But this grade here is part of it. You've already done that work, so don't worry about that. It's already turned in. You did it for an assignment. Turn everything into the link on Blackboard. Again, a kind of a reminder that you need to have the YouTube link or the actual video file on Blackboard. That does help out a lot. I had been saying for a couple of broadcasts now that people with zeros probably don't really have zeros. What they have is that well, I'm not going to say I lost your video, but I could not locate it. It wasn't on the Blackboard link, and I couldn't find it in my email when I searched for your name. And so I needed you to make sure that you got it to me. So again, to kind of make sure that the turnaround on work is efficient, both your work and my work in terms of grading. Again, please prioritize turning it into the link I'm going to post on Blackboard tonight. Put the link to the YouTube video in there so that your name is associated with it. And also make sure that if you do have a raw video file, go ahead again, upload it to that space. So that your name is associated with it. If you're worried about privacy, there is an option again on YouTube, and I believe and I feel very confident that I went over how you would do this on the initial tutorial video, which you can access by going way back in our announcements from the beginning of the semester. But there is a way that you can set the privacy to a video to be anyone with the link can view it. That way the public can't view it, but I could view it because I have that special link. So again, you can still maintain your privacy and upload things to YouTube, and you can also, again, maintain your privacy by uploading the video account if that's something that concerns you. But nonetheless, I just wanted to point that out, is do make a special effort to turn things into that link on Blackboard. Helps keep me organized, and I don't have to go searching through my email box or try to Google your real name and hope that you have a Google Plus account that's associated with a YouTube that I can kind of creep on and see if you turned in your assignment. So anyway, rant over. So actual resources to help you complete this assignment. Okay, I think the first thing that bears mentioning is that there is an outline template for this speech. It is called Monroe's Motivated Sequence. So outline template for this speech is Monroe's Motivated Sequence. Okay. Now, what Monroe's Motivated Sequence is, again, is a kind of a two-step process where you start your speech by making the audience feel uncomfortable, and then the second part of your speech is giving them a way to feel comfortable again through changing either a belief, attitude, or getting them to do something that they don't already do. So for more details on that, we went over it on a live broadcast a few weeks ago, but I wanted to point out that the Persuasion Basics PowerPoint, let's go ahead and fire that up here in a second. This is the PowerPoint I'm talking about. And the particular template is found on these last few slides here. As you can see, the whole thing is here. I believe we broadcast this, I think I would like to say 3 weeks ago. It was kind of like right after spring break. So that link should be available as well if you go through our class YouTube account. And of course, any video link, including the one that's going to be associated with this video, can take you to the channel page where this video will be available if you want to watch that again. But these last 4 slides here are the resource that you should go to for about how to structure the types of things in your speech. Again, it arbitrarily has 2 main points. You might have 3. You might have 2 main points in your need and only 1 point in your solution, or maybe you'll have 1 point in your need step. That's the need step is where you make the audience feel uncomfortable. And of course, the solution step is the solution step. So you might have some kind of sequence where you have more main points in one or the other. Maybe you have 4 main points, or maybe you just have 2 like this. You do need, at a minimum, the 2 main points. One to make the audience feel like there's a need for change, and the other main point to present a solution that would satisfy that desire to be comfortable again. You need those 2 minimum, but beyond that, if you have 3, 4, 5, they can be distributed however you feel is appropriate, depending on what research you found and so forth. If you are wanting something a little bit more friendly than this PowerPoint, because I know that sometimes people like to have a template they can just kind of write on and then type from. There is a template for this speech in your workbook that is a little less busy than this one. And that template is actually called the skeletal outline for the group speech. And for me, this appears on page 57. I'm going to go ahead and write that in our document here. It's either the Persuasion Basics PowerPoint or page 57. And again, I know that some of us are using books from different times. Or different editions of the book. I know a lot of you possibly had bought the book used. At least that's kind of my recollection based on the questions we had in the first couple weeks of the semester about where to find the book. So it may not be on page 57, but anyway, if you look in the book table of contents, at least you're looking for the group speech skeletal outline. Or a skeletal outline for the group speech. Let's go ahead and write that the correct way. They would not have changed the title. Skeletal outline for the group speech. That is where you will find information. It's got basically the same stuff, only it's less filled in with less clumsy examples. It's just blank. You can go ahead and look at that and fill it in with your own information if you would choose. Some of the terminology is just a little bit different. Like, for example, where I say you provide a step-by-step plan, they just call it visualization. It's the same deal. Don't worry about the slight difference in vocabulary there. It is the same thing. So you can use either of those ideas to help you build your speech in terms of formatting. The next part is, and this is something that I did take off points for in the last speech, and so I want to point out that you do need to have a works cited with your outline. And last time I did make it a separate grade, which those of you who turned it in should have received some points, and those of you who did not turn it in didn't receive any points. But this time it's going to be wrapped up with your outline. So your works cited. Let's go ahead and start numbering these things, shall we? So 2. Works cited is on a separate page within the same document as your outline. Okay, so if you have a 1-page outline, which actually you should probably have like a good 2 to 3 pages of worth of outline. Just throwing that out there as a guideline. What the next page, you hit insert, page break, and on that page there that you begin your works cited. And this should be an APA format. Let's go ahead and write that in there too. APA format. Now you might have seen listed in our course materials the optional purchase of an APA style guideline, and that's While purchasing that might be like a wise choice, especially if you're going to be in anything other than English, because they use modern language. Everybody else does use APA. I suppose journalism uses Chicago Urbana, but who ever cares about journalism majors, right? I'm just kidding. I actually have a great affection for our journalism department, but I have to make fun of them every once in a while. Anyway, the APA style there's an APA style reference guide in actually your textbook, or rather, no, not your workbook, on page 65 of your workbook. So this kind of gives you the outline. Yeah, I guess you're right. It is the outline of how you would cite things according to different sources. It's got books, journals, magazines, newspapers, pamphlets, electronic resources, i.e. websites, articles in an internet-only magazine, non-periodical articles on an internet, document on a professional site, and a whole bunch of other stuff like VHS tapes and stuff like that. And that information in your workbook can be found on page, for me it's page 65. The title of the page, if you're using a different edition of the workbook, is simply Developing Reference Lists, Citing in APA Style. Okay. There are also a couple other online sources that you can use, and one of those sources is Son of Citation Machine. I believe let's go ahead and just search for it. I don't want to okay, citationmachine.net. And here you can decide which style you're in. I have to go through my extra security settings here, which would be APA, and it will bring up this little window here, and you want to hit manual entry mode, and you just fill out this form, and you hit create citation. It'll create a little thing over here to the side that you can then cut and paste. Don't forget, though, there is something that is easy to forget, and that is that works cited information should appear in alphabetical order based on author's last name. Okay, so that's the first citation, or part of the citation for any of these options, is to have the author's name, or specifically their last name, be that first word there. So make sure it is in alphabetical order according to that. Okay, so that brings us to then, the last little bits of what you should have in your speech outline. And again, the template should really help you out here a lot, because you will find yourselves doing these things naturally. But remember way back, this will probably be almost a month now, when we started this unit, we talked about ethos, credos, and logos. Ethos, credos. Oh my gosh, I am crazy. Ethos, pathos, and logos. See, this is why I definitely need to keep to my 7:30 p.m. streaming schedule here, because someone else would have caught that for me in chat before I made a fool of myself. Ethos, pathos, and logos. I was thinking about the word credibility and just putting os at the end of it, like to make it Greek. See, some of us still make mistakes. But anyway, we talked about ethos, pathos, and logos, and we also talked about the persuasive strategies. We had a little video activity where you read an article about this, but then we had a little video that explained what these were. That was a few weeks ago. In fact, let's go ahead and go to that announcement now, where you can find the resource. It will be welcome back from spring break. I feel like it came after that. Yes, here it is. On Monday, March 20th. Yeah, so almost a month away from now. We had this Purdue OWL resource, and we also had a YouTube video about the persuasive strategies. All right. And there were 6 of those. Again, so let's go ahead and put that down on the email. There's 6 of those. And the assignment was on the discussion board. And again, you can go back and refer to your entry. And again, I was pretty impressed with the entries that you had written. Make sure that your speech, as you're writing it, make sure you have some part of your speech outline that addresses each of these. And for the persuasive strategies, you pick one and make sure that once your outline is complete, you can identify which of the strategies you've used without explicitly stating it. Okay? You shouldn't say, for my ethos portion, I have decided to include an explanation of. You don't want to say it that way. You just want these things to be apparent, but not explicitly stated. So that's kind of what the tip I'll give you there. Again, when we look at our example on Monday, I will talk about how these elements are present or maybe not present in our example, and if they're not present, what the speaker that Liz represents could have done to include them. And that's why the example is coming on Monday along with your outlines, so that you can kind of reflect upon what you've written this week and look at it in the context of that video. But you do need to get started on writing it this week. And that's really, folks, that's really it. This was a kind of I guess it wasn't as brief as I suppose I would like, as 26 minutes or so. But just a little bit of a review of where you can find these things. Again, your assignment for this week is to write your outline and submit it to the link on Blackboard. Again, that will be due on Monday, April 17th. I know that's only 5 days away, but we will have an example that will help you finish your outline on that very day. And your recorded speeches will be due at the end of that week. All right, end of next week. So you still got some time to pull this together. And again, if you feel like this pace is a little too fast, we can go ahead and get an individual extension for you. I do know that other projects and other classes are getting busy. As soon as we finish up this assignment, if you really want to take a long view of the course, starting next, no, well, not next Monday, but this would be April 24th now. On Monday, April 24th, we will start our last unit, which is going to be a little bit more about like advanced delivery techniques, and you will do a shorter persuasive speech, and that will be the final grade of the semester. It's going to be a well, you know what? We'll talk about that later. Just don't even worry about it. Let's focus on this. Details, vague details, are in the syllabus. But anyway, so we're cruising along pretty good. So I am happy with where we are. I hope this video is helpful in some way, in which I hope that identifying these sources that you have to help you write this is good. As always, you can email me. I do believe that I am caught up again on emails. I know that a lot of you email me about your grades. However, I hope that my mass email has answered those concerns, and now we can all see our grades. And I think anything else that was non-grade related, I have already replied to and answered as of the video that the broadcast here that we're doing. So again, thank you for your patience, and again, thank you for your great work and attention to detail that you've done over the course of the semester. I really feel like we're in a great place. I hope you do too. I hope you're taking pride in your work, and I can hardly wait to see these speeches. I bet they're going to be great. So I'm looking forward to it. And contact me by email if you need anything. I'll get to you hopefully within a day. So yeah, have a great evening.